Hello folks, and welcome to this third lecture of the semester. And this time we're going to be talking about digital worlds, diverse digital worlds. Diversity being the key word for our reflection today. What's the relevance of diversity in the digital world? Why is it something we have to be concerned with? I think the reading really takes us through some of the key central elements that should drive a sound discussion on diversity in the digital world. The chapter starts by stating something that should be quite obvious to all of us, but it's nonetheless quite relevant. Is the fact that it seems unstoppable, the fact that our lives are, book reads will be, but I think our lives are increasingly digital. I think the difference between the world that I was roaming at when I was your age, and except for those of you that might be old timers like me, but it seems to me like all of you pertain to the next generation. So the difference between my generation and your generation, which is 10, 15, 20 years. So I was in my, oh my goodness, it's going to be more than 30. I was in my 20s almost 30 years ago. The difference between the world that I lived in and the world that you live in is quite dramatic. And we are now used to technologies and everyday life devices that I was reading as science fiction when I was your age. And I don't think that I'm that old. So the transformation of our lives has been substantial, relevant, and it is increasing. And it seems like time the time runs differently in the digital world, in the sense that we see changes every day, and often are remarkable changes. And I would contend and present to you the idea that what's even more so remarkable is the speed with which we adapt to those changes and assume those changes as natural, which is quite frankly amazing. But what should drive our reflection about the digital world is a consideration of those central ideas and ideals that determine what this world should and ought to be, and how close or separate from those ideals the world is. And because those ideals and those ideas are there, so who's presenting those ideas? Who's crafting this vision statement for what the digital should be? And this is important in that these ideals and ideas will drive further development or the opposition to those developments as we move in time. And that's definitely part of what anthropology is keenly interested in. And as you see and find more and more materials to read, and you read with me as the semester goes by, you will see how the anthropological concern is not so much into what it is there, but on the driving forces behind what it is there. And that's to speak about ideals and ideas. Insofar as the ideas, there are certain notions that we are somewhat familiar with, but I think we, in the reading, helps us go deeper into understanding it. All of you have heard of this concept of the global village, as I think it's like a Shangri-La, like this idea of what the future can bring, and how these new technologies can really help connect us all into a oneness, if you like, of a world. And so what are the pros and the cons of this vision of a global village? And then there are other concepts and ideas that are also important for us to consider. This idea of e-commerce or e-governance. E-commerce being a new incredible set of elements, tools, and resources so that we can do what it seems to have become human nature, to be consumers. I don't know if you remember, but when we did readings of other theoreticians that are creating models to understand society and human reality. Some have created metaphors that humans and the societies are like organisms, and others have created um, understandings of what is the base of the human nature. Marx was one that was really interested in formulating its work around a basic fundamental conception of what humans are. And not enough you've given much thought to what's our nature, what's the fundamental nature of humans. That is, what's the reason why we're here? What are we here for? And for Marx, it was to produce. Humans are humans when they are producing. It's the homo faber in Latin. It's that being that realizes its potential when it's producing something. So anything that was taken away from humans, their ability to produce, to conceptualize, use raw materials, and then produce something that would be alienating. And he certainly thought of factories and other elements of human life in the 19th century as dehumanizing. This is why he talked about alienation and how any political system that was to be sustainable and worth fighting for would be a political system that would return to humans their ability to be that, producers, that is, to be humans. Fast forward, and it seems like we have moved from this perception of humans being producers to the current perception, and that's, I think, it's widespread in the sense that it's about consumption. It's about taking things and buying things, and the entire economic system that we live embedded in, it's about consumption. I don't know if you remember, because you were awfully young, but right after the attacks in New York in 9/11, what then President George Bush would tell people is, go out and buy. And if you buy, then you will be going counter what they want to do to us. They want us to be scared. They want us to be different. But we're going to move forward this country and our nation and our values and where we are by going out and shopping. And I had very, very mixed feelings when I heard that, because I said, no, that's not what I think of myself as being my true nature in shopping. There might be some other stuff that I can do that might even contribute better to balance what's clearly an unbalanced world that is creating this really insane and unforgivable, and so there's no justification for these acts of violence among men. But in any event, it is true that what he was pointing at the fact that we are very much so about consumption, consuming, and it seems like everything we do, maybe we have to think, maybe even the training that you're getting in this university is about you becoming a wiser, better consumer, but maybe not. And nonetheless, see, these fundamental understandings of human nature are critical to understanding what's going on in the digital. So this chapter will and the chapter, as you read the book, will really present different spaces within the realm of the digital that show that these conceptions and notions that we somehow take for granted and just assume as, oh well, that's what it is, need some revision, critical revision. Maybe some we need to keep, and maybe some we need to critically approach and reconsider. But another thing that is interesting and that I think we can sort of discover in the reading is that this discussion did not start with the first iMac. I mean, it started way before that. And I think there was a sense right after the 1950s that a new era was about to begin, and there's this conversation about the nature of media and the nature of the future of humanity as deeply hyper interconnected. So let me share with you a clip that was filmed in the 1950s that already considers the different understanding of media and this interconnected world.
Well, there they are. Our new electronic media, or our new gadgets. You push a button and the world's yours. You know how they talk about the world getting smaller? Well, it's thanks to these that it is. Everywhere is now our own neighborhood. We know what it's like to go on safari in Kenya, or to have an audience with the Pope, to order a cognac in a Paris cafe. But not only is the world getting smaller, it's becoming more available and more familiar to our minds and to our emotions. The world is now a global village. A global village. Well, if the appliance store is the symbol of the age we're living in now, what about the symbol of the age just past? Because in contrast to all of this, we used to have just one medium, or one gadget, if you like. John?
Come on around. We're in a bookstore, in the hallowed, respectable center of the age of print, the age of the book. In the appliance store, you're very much the electronic man. Here, you go back to being the Renaissance man, literary man. A book. It's all we used to have. There were no film projectors, no TV sets or radios. We got all our information from this. We were educated by it. We learned about each other from it. The book was the source of our fame. We lived, loved, and died, as the saying goes, by the book. Think for a minute of how one reads. One sits alone. One's eye scans a line at a time. The author's ideas come to you one at a time off the page. It's a private experience. It's not a community or family activity. You do this alone. The electronic media haven't wiped out the book. It's read and used and wanted, perhaps more than ever. But the role of the book has changed. It's no longer alone. It no longer has sole charge of our outlook nor our sensibilities. Of course, the trouble is we act as though we were still solely in the age of the book. Our notions of right and wrong, our regard for one another, for education, diplomacy, politics, religion, all belong to the literary man. And perhaps that's why literary man finds things today coarse or corrupt or materialistic. He hears the sound of fighting in the street, of the rough and tumble of life. Sometimes he hears the sound of music, and he finds it all rather vulgar.
With me now is Marshall McLuhan. Well, Marshall, you've done a considerable amount of writing about media. What does this all mean, the book world that we had and the electronic world we have?
I think the best distinction now might be found in the phrase "with it." You know how we speak of being with it, meaning we've understood completely. We've got the message, as it were, in every way possible. But in the older book or print culture, people were not with it. They were away from it by themselves with their own private point of view. Now, you have no point of view when you're with it because you accept the thing totally. And we're with it because these new media of ours, the one you talked about in the appliance store, have made our world into a single unit. The world is now like a continually sounding tribal drum, where everybody gets the message all the time. A princess gets married in England, and boom, boom, boom go the drums. We all hear about it. An earthquake in North Africa, a Hollywood star gets drunk, away go the drums again. I use the word tribal. It's probably the key word of this whole half hour.
Why, Marshall, do you use the word tribal? Why this?
Well, I think you'll find everything we observed tonight about the media points in the direction of tribal man and away from individual man.
Now, by individual man, I assume that you're referring to John's literary man.
Yes, and tribal man is the man created by the new electronic media.
So that this would be the basic change we spoke of at the beginning.
Yes, we're retribalizing. Involuntarily, we're getting rid of individualism. We're in a process of making a tribe. For just as books and their private point of view are being replaced by the new media, so the concepts which underlie our actions, our social life, are changing. We are no longer so concerned with self-definition, with finding our own individual way. We're more concerned with what the group knows, of feeling as it does, of acting with it, not apart from it.
Look, let's back up just a bit, Marshall. If more books are being used, more being sold, the libraries are crowded, they're busy, how can it be said, aside from what else may be happening, that we're moving out of a print culture?
As John said, books are still very important, but their role is changing. The nature of their importance is changing. Remember that books were our first teaching machine, and during the Renaissance, our only teaching machine. And books are what gave the Renaissance its peculiar stamp. We had to see the world and each other's through the printed line on the page. And today, there are many media of information, many teaching machines.
By teaching machines, I take it that you're not referring only to those found in the classroom.
No. We learn everywhere. The books are always diminished because of all the other actors. It's no longer king, but subject. We all want to the book. The assembly line of mass production, for example, comes to us from the book, from the printed line where things move along and happen one at a time. But the assembly line has changed. It is no longer one thing at a time, but wherever possible, everything at once. 40 or 50 operations happening at the same time, controlled and synchronized exactly by preset type. Notice the shift in the image. From the assembly line stretched out, events taking place one at a time, to the modern automated industrial complex, where things happen all at once. Bang. Not a line, but a field. And this applies not only to products, but to people. The line, the individual event, was the book. The field, the all-at-once, tribal drum, the new media.
Yes, but, I mean, our media, is any medium that strong that it can affect our lives and our whole outlook, Marshall? Aren't media, as I think most of us feel, on the edges of life? They can be taken or left alone.
Well, we've seen how print affected all aspects of our lives. Industry, education, the concept of the modern army, even our managerial class is a product of print culture. So is the idea of romantic life. The media are at the heart of our life because the media work through our senses. And print is a medium. It changed our sense makeup from what it had been in the Middle Ages. And now certainly these other media will do the same. They, the photograph, movies, radio, TV, all these change at once the way in which we see or hear or touch or feel ourselves and our world. A slight change in one of our five senses alters the ratio among the best. People suddenly begin to want and appreciate different things. They begin to think differently.
All right, but let's get back to your earlier word, tribal, Marshall. Why should all of this talk about media mean that individual man is on the way out and tribal man is on the way in? I mean, why is the big change taking place?
To answer that, let's get back to the teenager, for he illustrates the changes brought about by media in the clearest way, especially if we contrast the teenager with his old-time contemporary, the adolescent.
Whoa. You mean there's a difference between the adolescent and the teenager?
Yes, and I'd say it's the same kind of difference as that between book culture and the electronic era. The adolescent corresponds to the world of the book, the teenager to the electronic era. The adolescent is seeking self-definition, seeking to isolate his uniqueness from that of others, seeking to relate his self to others. The adolescent knew he wasn't an adult. He knew he was in life's waiting room, that his life was not really real life. That would begin only with adulthood. The adolescent is still our image of what the young person should be.
Okay, so that's in terms of ideas and ideals. So it's just an invitation to start exploring some of those seminal ideas. There's much more out there, and you've seen a few clips as part of the discovery section of this course that will also help us build some substance to this exploration. And before I cut this first segment of the lecture, let's quickly explore what are the myths and realities of this world. What are the myths? The myths that I can see and feel that are important to consider is that the myth is that it unites people. Does it really unite people? I think they bring people closer, but to what extent the new media that we are not, well, the new media that we're using, it really unites people. Second part of the myth is that it creates and distributes wealth. At a certain extent, it might, but when you see the world as a whole, is that are we really better off now than before this digital explosion? And then related to the first one, it indicates that it helps people come together. So you might agree with me or not, but these are myths that deserve reconsideration. But the one thing that I can tell you, you know very well, is that there's a large group of people that feel and would like to rather stay in the margins of this explosion and revolution as they are concerned about the effects of this. So I'm going to finish this first segment with this really interesting proposition.
Did you know the average person spends 4 years of his life looking down at his cell phone? Kinda ironic, ain't it? How these touch screens can make us lose touch. But it's no wonder in a world filled with iMacs, iPads, and iPhones, so many eyes, so many selfies, not enough us's and we's. See, technology has made us more selfish and separate than ever. Cause while it claims to connect us, connection has gotten no better. And let me express first, Mr. Zuckerberg, not to be rude, but you should reclassify Facebook to what it is, an anti-social network. Cause while we may have big friend lists, so many of us are friendless all alone. Cause friendships are more broken than the screens on our very phones. We sit at home on our computers measuring self-worth by numbers of followers and likes. Ignoring those who actually love us, it seems we'd rather write an angry post and talk to someone who might actually hug us. Am I bugging? You tell me, cause I asked a friend the other day, let's meet up face to face. They said, alright, what time do you wanna Skype? I responded with OMG, SRS and then a bunch of SMHs and realized, what about me? Do I not have the patience to have conversation without abbreviation? This is the generation of media overstimulation. Chats have been reduced to snaps. The news is 140 characters. Videos are 6 seconds at high speed. And you wonder why ADD is on the rise faster than 4G LTE. But get a load of this. Studies show the attention span of the average adult today is 1 second lower than that of a goldfish. So if you're one of the few people or aquatic animals that have yet to click off or close this video, congratulations. Let me finish by saying you do have a choice, yes? But this one, my friends, we cannot autocorrect. We must do it ourselves. Take control or be controlled, make a decision. Me? No longer do I want to spoil a precious moment by recording it with a phone. I'm just gonna keep them. I don't want to take a picture of all my meals anymore. I'm just gonna eat them. I don't want the new app, the new software, or the new update. And if I want to post an old photo, who says I have to wait until Thursday? I'm so tired of performing in the pageantry of vanity and conforming to this accepted form of digital insanity. Call me crazy, but I imagine a world where we smile when we have low batteries. Cause that'll mean we'll be one bar closer to humanity.
Yeah, this was pretty good.